Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast. My name is Tyler Cobble, your host, as always, here with a new studio setup, and I figured nobody better to celebrate with something a little bit new than Bruce Petersen. Bruce, what's going on, man?
Not a lot, brother. How are you?
Doing well, just recovering. We just bought a hotel, so it's been a fun couple of weeks.
Recovering from buying a piece of real estate. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, man, I swear every time we close on a property, the 4 weeks leading up to it are completely uneventful. And then the week of is always just everything that, is it Murphy's Law? Like everything that can go wrong will go wrong.
Exactly. And, we just closed Salt Ranch, and I just closed an apartment complex here in Austin. The exact same thing. The last 2 to 3 days, just an absolute shit show.
Yeah.
Really, really bad sellers, just uncooperative, non-communicative, just a horror show. And we're trying to unwind their mess now that we took over. But yeah,
Yeah, I can't
fun
imagine
stuff.
that because, at least you and I were just closing on one property. You, with your other side of everything that you do, were closing on another property the same week. So that had to be a
The
lot of
exact
fun.
same day, actually, but mine on this end
Whew.
got delayed by 1 day. Yeah,
Well, I mean,
that
that's
was
that's
not a fun day to be me.
that's pretty appropriate considering what we're going to be talking about today with scaling your business. So, who wants to
Mhm.
scale their business into buying two properties in two different states on the same day? I mean, that's a good thing, right? Uh,
It's a really
that's
good thing. It beats the alternative. It beats me working in retail for 20 years for 80 to 100-hour weeks. So even though it gets stressful as hell sometimes, man, I wouldn't change this for the world.
That's so true. That's so true. For those of y'all that are relatively new to the show, Bruce and I used to have a podcast called Commercial Conversations Over Coffee where we used to talk every week and have these kinds of conversations. So we haven't really done it in a little bit. We need to film one next time you come into town. Obviously got tough because we were doing them live. And as I'm sure you guys noticed, we went live at like 5:40 today. There's always some sort of issue that comes up whenever we're going live. Again, Murphy's Law.
Yeah, and we were doing the commercial conversations over coffee. Lots of good feedback, but we're it's the problem with trying to do it live, and you and I are both out in the wild really doing it. So we just get so busy. It's hard to always hit that same time every single week. One of us would have to reschedule, it seemed, every single week. So, maybe we can get it going again and maybe we pre-record some stuff. But yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, that was a fun podcast. I mean, that was some of the longest conversations we've ever had too. I mean, we were talking for an hour and a half, but it was good because we were covering literally everything on commercial real estate, everything from buying commercial real estate to multifamily syndication. I mean, not too dissimilar from what I'm doing on this channel, but it was mostly Bruce and I having those conversations because, those are the conversations we were having anyway.
Right.
Tell us about the apartment building you just bought.
So it's a little bitty one, right? Well, okay, that might maybe
It's
sound like
little
a big.
bitty. It's like 50 units. It's really tiny.
Well, once you've been doing it for a while, it's that scale thing, right? You build
Yeah.
a bigger business, you build a bigger database of investors, everything gets bigger. So now we're buying 1 to 300, sometimes, 3 to 400 unit properties. This one was a 50. This is the smallest I've ever bought. But the only reason I decided to buy it is I've got a property right down the street. It's a 200 unit apartment complex in Austin. And it's the property we're going to run this out of. This little 48 unit, it's made up of 20 studios and then the other side of the street, because it's basically two parcels that got stuck together over the years, built in 1970. But so we've got apartments on one of the side of the street and we've got studios on the other side of the street, but there's no office. So there's no way to lease or put a manager there. So we're running it out of the 200 unit property up the street. So, I'm really glad to have it in this market that I just bought this in Austin. Cap rates to purchase are somewhere between 3 and 3.5 for a C market. Well, we got this one for a 5.4. So we got an incredible deal. Cash flow's not the strongest, right? We're going to average 6% over a 3-year hold. So again, not the greatest, but because I'm getting it at such an unbelievable cap rate, because I had to put a lot of money down, and that's why my cash flow got kind of cut, my cash on cash return. But buying it at such a great cap rate, we should exit at about a 17 to an 18 IRR. So it's going to be a great deal. Super excited about it. I've officially had it since yesterday. But starting to walk with the contractors and firming up all the bids. We get our initial bids at the beginning. When we go through due diligence, once we close, we firm those up, usually follow those bids up with two additional to make sure we're going with the best guy. And that's where we are now, just working through all that.
Well, I would imagine having that apartment complex down the street had to help, right? Because and make you more competitive in the bidding process because technically you can kind of pay a little bit more, not that you would want to, but you could pay a little bit more than most other people could justify because you can kind of share a manager there, right?
Right. So a lot of people, well, most people that do what I do, they're going to buy it and hire a third party property management company. And you can find them out there to manage this. What I've seen for a 48 unit is going to be anywhere from 5 to 10%. Now we have our own property management company, so we manage all of our own stuff. But it gets tough trying to manage something this small, especially when you don't have a management office. My very first property was well, actually the same size. It was a 48 unit back in 2012. I actually built an office on site because it was my first deal. I didn't have a property down the street that I could run this out of. But since I can run it out of my other property, yeah, my payroll is dramatically lower than it normally would have been because it's just a pro rata share of the other property. We save on admin costs. We save on, well, I was going to say on marketing costs, but in Austin, I really don't have to market much. But yeah, we do have economies of scale because now we have 240 units over two properties.
Well, and that's the most beautiful part about it. Again, it's the economies of scale. I mean, remember when we first started talking about multifamily units, it's like don't buy anything under 75 units because you can't afford to keep a property manager on site full time. And that's, otherwise you're either paying more for property management than you really should be, or you're going to be managing it yourself, neither of which are really attractive for investors, right? And so having that property down the street allows you to get by with that and you scale up. So when we're talking about getting into, I guess, investing in real estate from the ground level, you've got a lot of people that start in single family residential investing because it's very, I guess the barrier of entry is much lower and everybody kind of understands that sector, right? Because most people grow up in a home. What is the issue with scaling single family?
Well, first of all, you buy 10 single family units. You've got now 10 different closes you have to go through. You have to find 10 different properties. Then you got to run 10 different assets all over town, probably. And they might even be in different cities, different states. It gets to be a pain in the ass. And you really can't, I mean, you can hire a third party property management company there as well. Single family is usually going to be 8 to 12% of the rent, right? So you're going, if it's 10% of the rent, you're going to give away 1.2 months of rent to somebody else, not profit, but of rent. That's going to be 3 to 5 months of your profit. That's crazy, right? So it's just a totally different world. So I try to tell people, start where you have to start, but get to buying some real estate, some rental real estate. It could be the foundation of your portfolio, but you got to get to commercial, which is what multifamily is. But you got to get to commercial as quickly as you can. And so part of that growth, a lot of people that I talk to are investing in single family rent homes. They're doing duplexes, tris, and quads. Those are still technically single family. They're trying to figure out, okay, I'm doing this. I'm beating my head against a wall. I'm driving myself to death all over town. This is tough. This is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. How do I make this a business? So now I have created a course that teaches you how to take what you've learned in real estate investing and basically just scaling that larger. Instead of buying a couple of single family rent homes per year, I'm going to show you exactly how to buy a 100-unit apartment complex or a 50-unit apartment complex. 50 doors and one transaction under one roof instead of 50 houses. That's probably going to take you 5 to 10 years to buy, if not longer. So I teach people how to do that through something called a syndication. Bring a lot of people together in this deal. You have one operating partner. Basically, people call it the GP. And then you have a lot of silent investors called limited partners. So I teach people how to do that now. And in fact, I've got a workshop coming up in Austin in October 8th and 9th at the Domain here in Austin. And we're going to take 2 days and teach people step by step for a very reasonable price exactly how to do this. My online education will teach you quite a bit. My book will teach you quite a bit, but still there's no back and forth. There's no questions and answers. This is what I'm figuring, what I'm finding in the market, Bruce. How do I do this? How do I do that? So we're going to be together in the same room for 2 full days, 16 hours, just going through this stuff. So we're going to have a lot of fun, meet a lot of cool people. We're only going to take about 20 people in this class, but that's what we're up to. And that's how I'm trying to help people have the life that you and I have, Tyler.
Yeah, I personally went to the school of Petersen, one might call it, a few years ago because Bruce basically started mentoring me. I had no idea what syndication was, so I mean I had grown up in a development company that self-funded basically other deals. They had all the capital in house, put down the equity, got debt from a local lender, and that was how we did all of our projects. So when I was growing up as a baby commercial real estate broker, I had no idea you could just go out and raise capital from friends and family or whatever, or other accredited investors to put these deals together. So Bruce, I mean, obviously, like, look, what was let's use your 48 unit property as an example of scale, right? Because if I'm a relatively new real estate investor, let's say I own 3 single family homes, right? Like I'm just kind of starting to get into it. How do I go from 3 homes to 48 units in one deal?
Again, it's just called a syndication. Once you understand the process of investing in rental real estate, the rest of it, you just need somebody to teach you. I don't want to tell you, share the secret with you because it's not a damn secret. It's out there, but you got to go read a lot of books and listen to a lot of podcasts. But you got to find somebody that can kind of unlock that door for you because there is a little more to it, obviously, because now you're dealing with investors. But if you structure it the right way, and I go into exactly how to structure it, exactly who you're going to use to structure that for you, what kind of attorney, when to find them, how much you're going to pay them, we're going to all of that. But again, once you understand the basics of investing in real estate, and people that go into syndications, they've already been investing in real estate. It's an advanced way to build your portfolio and your business. So now I can teach you how to bring in people at $10 to $50 to $100,000 at a whack instead of you being limited by your own checkbook, which you might have $100,000 to put into a deal. That might buy you a single family rent home or a couple. It's not going to buy you a 50 unit apartment complex. The 48 unit that we just closed on, I keep calling it a 50, but it's really a 48. Our all in is about 2.4 to 2.5 million bucks. Most people listening to this don't have that kind of cash in their back pocket. So now I show you how to raise money from other people. I show you the legal way to do it. But now you can bring a lot of you together. Again, you as the deal sponsor or the syndicator, you're the person that's going to control the deal. You're going to run the deal on behalf of the silent investors. And now you can go out and buy that 50 unit apartment complex. If you buy a 50 instead of 100 or 75, as you mentioned earlier, if there's an office on site, you could probably run it with a part-time manager. But if there's not an office on site, it's going to be tough. But that's it. I'm just teaching you how to raise money legally and effectively from other people to go out and buy more real estate than you could have by yourself.
So you keep mentioning the word legally, raising capital legally. Obviously I know what all is involved in a syndication, but if somebody has no prior experience, why do you keep harping on that?
Well, because if you do it wrong, you can go to jail. There's wrong ways to do it. You can get yourself sued. I say go to jail. That's probably an extreme example because you're technically breaking the law if you do certain things the wrong way. I don't think you probably would ever go to jail unless you were a Ponzi scheme and you were just an outright crook. But there's a right way or there's a legal way and an illegal way to raise money. And if you don't know what those gotchas are, you're just going to go out there and start talking to anybody about it, everything on any forum, and you're going to get in trouble. Right? There's specific ways that you have to do this. And if you just blindly ask people at the front of the room, if you have the mic for a second at a meetup, because you're doing a round of everybody introducing themselves and you say, hey, I got a deal. Who wants in? Very highly likely that you just broke the law unless you filed a specific way. And again, I hate to keep saying this because it sounds like a sales pitch. It's not exactly a sales pitch. I'm just trying to tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to teach you how not to get yourself hung that way. So if you do it the wrong way, yeah, you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. And maybe it'll only be a fine, but it's also going to mean you can't do another one in your life. The SEC will bar you from ever doing one now, and you're done. So now you got to go back to buying a single family rent home, whatever, 1 or 2 or 3 years, a slow grind, turn and wrenches yourself because you don't see how to be able to afford staff to do this. So there is a right way and there is a wrong way to do it. It's not just a matter of, going out there and telling people at a meetup, hey, I got a deal. Who wants in? First of all, most people aren't going to invest with you that way because you come across very unsophisticated and they're not going to be happy. And also, a lot of people start with their friends and family, go, oh, I'll just tap my mom and dad and brother and sister and uncle. And they're not going to give you money, guys. You have to go where people are that are ready to invest.
Yeah. Also, do you want them in your deals anyway? Like, I couldn't imagine my mom texting me about getting a return on her money and then having to deal with that at Thanksgiving. That'd be miserable.
Well, my girls are invested in every deal I've ever done. My niece has invested in quite a few of our deals. My sister's invested 2 of our deals. So we've had friends, we've had family come in. But everybody, when they get started in this, that's the non-scary people to go talk to about giving them money. So everybody goes there first. Almost always on your first deal or two, those people are not going to give you money. They know you too damn well. They maybe changed your diapers or remember you as a snot-nosed kid at the playground when you're 5, and they just cannot wrap their heads around giving you $100,000. So that's usually not a good place to start. And I talk to you about where you should start.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of points that, I mean, because it wasn't too long ago that I was like the target audience for what you're doing, right? Where it's like, man, I don't know really how to get there. And there's really kind of a couple of points that are the biggest sticking points. One is finding the deal, and 2 is actually raising the capital. And there's always this chicken or egg thing, egg question, right? Should I go find a deal? And then because everybody says, oh, find the deal, the money will come to you. Or is it, should I go raise the capital, then find the deal? How do I raise capital if I don't have a deal? I mean, so what is your viewpoint on kind of that crossroads for a baby investor?
Do not start with the property. If you start with a property, you find something and then you don't have any money and you think, oh, well, I've got this golden egg in my hand. Everybody's, of course, going to want this bright, shiny new baby that I fell in love with. No, it's not going to happen. You're going to go out and try to raise money. And this is where you're going to get stuck because you're going to get into a panic because you've got money on the table now. You've put earnest money up. And now you got to go panically go out and find the money. This is where you're going to get yourself on the wrong side of the law because you're going to do things the wrong way and get in trouble. You got to find the money first. Once you find the money, they're going to be soft commits that you're going to get from people that have expressed interest in investing with you. Once you have that, now you can go out and find the property. So let's say you need to buy a property. Your first time out, you're going to raise $500,000 or $1 million. Let's call it $1 million for easy numbers. You better go out and get soft commits for $2 to $3 or $4 million. And that's going to freak the hell out of people when they hear me say that because they're overwhelmed by raising 1 or 200,000. Well, if you need to raise 100,000, you better raise 3 or 400 because when it comes time, you finally find that deal. Most of the people on your list are not going to come through at the end. They're going to get cold feet. Somebody else will have beat you to the punch and delivered an investment to them that they went in on. They're going to decide for some reason they just don't really kind of click with you like they thought they did. There's all kinds of reasons. There might be a family emergency. COVID might come up. Somebody's in the hospital. They can't break away to fill out your documents and deposit money into the business account. There's all kinds of reasons. Raise the money first. Double, triple, or even quadruple the amount you think you need in soft commits. That way, when you take a deal to these people, you have enough extra people sitting there that you can afford some people to drop off. And you talked about you were my target audience back when you and I first met. That was before I was informally mentoring people, but that's before I kicked all this other stuff off. Mm-hmm. The target audience, like I said a little bit earlier, it's people that are already doing this to some degree. They're already investing in rental real estate, but they look at what they're doing and they're thinking, holy crap, this is going to take me 20 to 40 years to ever build anything real. That's a long time. There's got to be a better, it's like the people that got away from the 401k and the IRA. That's not going to get me retired at 65 like everybody's telling me I'm supposed to do. So now I got to figure something else out. So people come to real estate. You get into single family and you go, oh, Well, I'm making $200 to $400 per house in free cash flow. Remember, you might be giving away a bunch of that to management fees, but that's your free cash flow, we'll say. Well, now you start doing the math to retire comfortably. Maybe I need 5,000, maybe I need $10,000 a month. If I need $10,000 a month, and there are many people out there listening that that's what they kind of feel they need to retire at the standard that they want to retire at. So, how many houses are you going to have to buy to get to $10,000 a month? With syndication, I show you the faster way to get there, still do it safely. But now, again, I can show you how in one deal, a 50 unit deal, you can take down $5,000 in personal income from that deal. It's a completely different thing. Instead of $400 a month in free cash flow, I'm going to teach you how to make in your personal pocket, $4,000 to $5,000 a month. So totally different world. It's safer in a lot of ways. It's easier in a lot of ways. You can get a loan for an apartment complex easier than you can to go out and buy your own personal residence that you're going to live in. So it's easier. So I just like talking about this with everybody because I can help you change your retirement view, how you're going to get there, what it's going to look like, how quickly you can get there. That's who my target audience is. Somebody that's doing it, realizing, shit, this isn't working like I thought. I'm making some extra scratch on the side, but it's not getting me where I want to be. What is the damn secret? Again, it's not a secret, right? It's written about it all over the place, but I'll teach you how to do that.
Well, playing devil's advocate, I mean, if you can do one deal and start making $5,000 a month and relatively passive income, why isn't everybody that's doing real estate doing syndication?
Well, remember when you and I first met, we met at a men's accountability group, a mastermind here in Austin. You came up to me after I did a presentation on what a syndication is, what it can do for you, and how much you can make from it. You're like, hey, talk to me about this. I don't know anything about this. So many people don't know what it is. Others, it's becoming more and more mainstream within the investment community that so they know what it is, but now they have no idea where to go to figure out how to do it. And when they do find somebody to teach them, very often it's a $20,000 to $40,000 membership fee that they will teach you. They will mentor you and coach you through it. And there are very reputable, really, really good groups out there teaching you, but most of them are $20,000 to $40,000. My seminar is going to be $3,000. And we're going to offer something at the end of this where if you'll act early enough, we'll probably be able to lock you in at $1,500. $1,500 is not an insignificant amount, but it beats giving somebody $20,000 to $40,000. And you're going to walk away from that workshop knowing every single thing you need to know to go out and do this on your own. Now, you're not paying me to coach you for a year or two. That's $50,000 to $100,000. You want to talk to me about that? Fine. But I'm doing this in a classroom setting now where I can help a lot of people at once. But for it to be worth all the effort that it's going to take and all the expense that there is to put this thing on, I got to charge people something. But I could probably charge people $3,000. I'm taken care of, so to speak, and it's so much cheaper than what they're going to find somewhere else. So that's what it is. A lot of people don't have $20,000 to $40,000 for mentorship programs. Some people don't know what syndication is, and if they do, they're scared to death. They hear all the fuzzy, warm stories at the front of the room about how everything's perfect, and everybody's radar goes up. Oh, this has got to be bullshit. There's no way I'm going to make $5,000 on a transaction every single month until we sell it, and it's going to be perfect. That's just too good to be true. You're right, it is. But I'm going to teach you what they won't tell you a lot of times, that stuff's going to go wrong. But I'll talk to you about how to get through that stuff that's going to go wrong. You're going to have COVID happen. You're going to have a fire happen. You're going to have a hurricane or a tornado or a flood. Things are going to happen. You might get sued. I'm going to teach you how to do this in a way that you mitigate that risk. You can never eliminate all that risk in any business you start. And that's what we're doing here. You're starting a business. But anyways, I don't know how to give very short and succinct answers, but that's why most people aren't doing this.
Yeah, well, we don't want short and succinct answers here anyway. I mean, that's the whole point of this podcast, is to thoroughly dive into these topics. I mean, that was exactly what I thought that you were going to say. It's that people don't know about it. I mean, I had no idea what syndication was, and I feel like a lot of people still don't. And one of the reasons for that, I think, is that it's still relatively new, which is kind of like in the world in relatively compared to commercial real estate or real estate investing, right? Because it wasn't until what, the Obama administration, that you could start doing friends and family raises with unaccredited investors. Didn't you have to have only accredited investors before?
Yeah, the rules were a lot more stringent back then, but no, syndications have been around forever. But yes, the Jobs Act, I think is what it was in 2013, I believe, it changed the rules to a degree that it makes capital formation, which is what it's called. You're bringing capital together and going out and deploying it for a common cause together, right? That's your syndication. Now it's much, much easier. So, yeah, instead of everybody having to be accredited now, we have ways to accept non accredited people. I just have to make sure, as the deal sponsor, that you are sophisticated enough to understand what the risks are involved in investing in this business. Make sure you understand what the returns look like, how to understand what they mean. So yeah, I just got to make sure you're sophisticated. You don't have to be accredited. Some offerings that people will bring out, they will only accept accredited people because that's a personal choice on their end. There's other reasons you would do that, and I go into that into the class too. But yeah, it is much easier than it used to be, but there's still tons of things you better know, because if you don't know, you're going to get screwed up.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, syndications are a securities. They're a security, right? They are governed by the Securities and Exchange Commission. And that is not really a governing body that you want to mess around with. Because, like Bruce was saying earlier, I mean, if you get investigated and you are convicted of fraud or whatever for doing a syndication improperly, you will never be able to raise capital from investors again. And you think about how much that could prohibit you from accomplishing in your life. Like, you don't really want to mess around with that. So it's a really, really big deal. So Bruce, let's, you know, obviously everybody is kind of raising capital without even knowing it, right? Because you're out there meeting people, you're networking. I mean, what's the proper approach when you start thinking about getting into syndication to building up those soft commits? I mean, do you just send out emails to everybody? Do you text everybody? Do you set up meetings with them and say, hey, I just want you to know what I'm doing? Are you actually asking for a number commitment? I had a buddy who, every single person that he would run into, he would say, how much would you like to invest in real estate? And he would get a number from them right there. And I think it's a little bit obnoxious, but like, it worked. Like, he very quickly figured out, okay, this person's interested in real estate or they're not. So, I mean, what's your advice there?
Well, but that's a good point too. It worked for his personality. It
Yep.
might not work for everybody, but I mean, there's really nothing wrong with that. You just got to be careful how you go about it. The safest way to do it: meet people at meetups or real estate conferences, and just strike up a general conversation during a networking event. Hey, what do you do? I'm a syndicator. Oh, hell, I just want to passively invest. Well, here's my business card. They will reach out to you through an email to establish a paper trail within the SEC, within the guidelines of the SEC. Because if you structure it the way most people will structure their deals in a syndication, you have to be able to show that you had a pre existing relationship with this person before you sent them a deal. Not before you let them give you money, but before you even send them the deal, you have to have a pre existing relationship, and you need to make sure they're sophisticated. So you got to get to know them a little bit. That was the Jobs Act, right? There are ways around it. Again, I go into that. But for the most part, the Jobs Act allowed you to raise money from different people than you previously could have, but there are very strict rules around how you can do it. You have to know them. You have to make sure, you have to feel that they're sophisticated and be honest about it. Because if they're not sophisticated and you go mentally check a box, oh, yeah, they're sophisticated. But if they're really not, it's going to create a pain in the ass for you and your business. So don't just make stuff up, because they're going to hound you after you get into business together. They're not going to understand any of the terms. They're going to get nervous when things don't go perfect. So make sure they're sophisticated. Again, you have to have a pre-existing relationship. So, they send me an email, say, hey, man, I met you at the meetup last night. Thanks for, spending some time with me. I'd really like to see the deals that you're working on in the future. If you can add me to your list, great. If you don't mind, take a couple seconds, schedule a phone call with me. Here's a link to my calendar. Then we'll have a 15 to 30-minute phone call, and I want to get to know them. We'll probably see each other at the meetup again. So we start to establish a rapport and a relationship. If I meet the guy at or the lady at the meetup, when I have a deal, totally fine. I just can't send them that deal the next day because I didn't have a relationship with them before I sent them the deal. Well, I met them yesterday. Okay, just meeting somebody is not a relationship. Think about it, guys. Be realistic. That's not a relationship. You met somebody. Now you need to work maybe over a couple of weeks, a couple of months, whatever it takes to get to where you have a relationship. So meet those people, but they'll have to come in on the next deal. That's why if you're going to syndicate, you got to start raising money right now. And what I mean by that, forming those relationships right now. So that way, when you do finally have a deal in 3 to 6 or 12 months, you send it to these people, you've had ample time to develop a relationship with them.
Yeah, that way there is no gray area there at all. It's very black and white. You had the pre-existing relationship. You're good to go. So, Bruce, let's say now you're comfortable. You feel like you've got enough relationships to where you could raise $2 to $3 million. Maybe you can acquire a 40 to 50 unit property. How do you go about finding the deal? Because multifamily is a bit of a different world, right?
It is. And everybody says, most of the podcasts that I'm on, well, obviously, you find all your deals that are deeply distressed, deep value add, and you're getting off market deals and pocket
Never
listings.
happens.
No, that's not how I'm buying things. It can happen when you're buying multifamily starts at 5 units. It can't happen with 5 units, right? Because that's a very unsophisticated seller, a mom and pop, as everybody calls them. They're very unsophisticated, and they will respond to you calling them on the phone. If you catch them at the right time and they are ready to sell, they'll respond to that. You call me and want to buy my 300-unit apartment complex in Austin, Texas, I'm not going to hang up on you. I'll be very polite. I'm not going to do that. This is a business for me. This is not my little side hustle. This is an absolute business for me. So when it's time to sell, I know when it's time to sell, and I will list it with a broker because the broker will have connections to hundreds of people across the nation, and sometimes they'll cross the world. So why am I going to take a phone call from Junior saying, hey, I'd like to buy your apartment complex? No, I'm going to put it out. Well, let's put it this way. I might sell it to that guy that cold called me, but you're going to pay an obscene premium. Because if I'm not going to list it formally with a broker with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of contacts in his Rolodex or her Rolodex, there's got to be a premium for me to forego that bidding process, that feeding frenzy. It's got to be worth it for me not to market it, right?
Yeah, because you've got to go to your investors and you've got to be able to prove to them that you did something that was in their best interest, right? Which typically taking the property to market, getting the highest and best offer is that.
Right. So if I think the property's worth $10 million and you want to buy it from me off market without me marketing it, you bet your ass you're going to pay 11 or more. If not, well, then that just makes no sense. Now, I still may only sell it for 10. Okay, that's fine. But I still want to get out there and broadcast it to the world because I do want a feeding frenzy. When you get involved in the multifamily industry, you're going to learn that almost every single deal comes to market with no price. They want a feeding frenzy. That's the way it works. So no, the off market, pocket listing stuff, again, that can work in a 5 to 12, maybe even a 24 unit. Once you start getting to 40 units and above, most people in this space, especially you get to 100 units and above, these are professionals. They are professional apartment complex investors. They're not going to go, oh, well, now that you called, maybe I do want to. No, they have a business plan. They know exactly when they're going to try to sell.
So, Bruce, one segment that we have recently started here on the YouTube channel is the story of the deal, where so far it's just been me breaking down in YouTube videos. I broke down the story of my first deal. I just recorded today or yesterday the story of Salt Ranch. Obviously, we have not gone through the full cycle of that one yet, but I wanted to kind of show everybody, hey, here's what it's like going through a full deal where we bought it, renovated it, leased it up, sold it, to like, hey, here's we just finished an acquisition. Here's what that was like. Will you give us the story of the deal on your first acquisition? Because I feel like you scaled up pretty significantly on that property, and I think it's an interesting story.
Yeah, so I found a coach, right? This is where I was talking about my workshop's only going to be a few $1,000s. I paid a coach a lot more than that to teach me how to do it because I didn't have one of these workshops that I could go to, or at least I knew about. But I paid a coach a lot of money to teach me exactly how to do this. So my first deal was 2012. I bought a 48 unit also in Austin, Texas, and we operated it for almost 2.5 years. Well, that deal. So first of all, let's back up a little bit. When I found real estate and tried to get myself educated, I wasn't working. I was 42 years old. I hit a corporate wall that I was just physically sick to my stomach going to work every day. I was like, damn, I can't do this shit anymore. It's going to kill me because I hated my life. I was a college dropout. My parents were high school dropouts, and I'm stuck in retail, and I don't like it. So 42 years old, I figure I saved enough money. I can get by a few years until I figure out what else I want to do with my life. So then I find a coach, teaches me how to do it. I go out and I'm thinking, how in the hell am I going to get a loan to buy a multi-million-dollar property? I don't have a job anymore. I don't have any experience. There's no track record. Who the hell's going to lend me money? Well, I got a loan to buy a $1.6 million apartment complex. I had no job. I had no experience. That's what I was taught by working with a coach. Again, I'll walk you through exactly how that happened for me. But on this, so I got that done, and we owned it for about 2.5 years. We sold it. The business plan on this, I told everybody it's going to be a 5 to 7 year hold is the projected hold period. At the end of the second year, I said, guys, I think we should sell because the Austin market had really started to explode in 2013 and 14. And one of them was kind of a holdout. So I had 14 investors and myself. One of the 14 was kind of a holdout. I was like, man, look, we bought this for cash flow. That was the idea. That's what this is all about. Why are we selling our income stream? You're right. We bought this for cash flow. But let's think about this. If I sell this property at what I think I can sell it for based on brokers I'm talking to, I'm going to give you 9 years of cash flow in one transaction. And they're like, oh, hell, I never thought about it that way. Exactly. Now, yes, we do have to figure out a way to redeploy that money or our income dries up. But I tripled investors' money, limited partners, silent investors. I tripled their money on that first deal. That first deal for me, I invested $115,000 in my first deal. It was very important for me with no experience, no job, no tracker, nothing. These people are taking a chance on me. It was important for me to be the biggest investor in my first deal. It's not written anywhere that you have to, but it was important for me. So I put 20% of the deal myself up, which was $115,000. When I sold, I had enough money now to fund my personal stake in my next 2 syndications. So that very first deal that I did funded a total of 3 deals. Made 1 investment, ended up buying 3 apartment complexes. Amazing stuff. Now, yes, part of it's because the Austin market got hot on us, and we were fortunate there. We did a pretty good job of it because I listened to my coach while we owned it. But the point is, you probably won't have that happen very often, if ever. But just get out there, hit some doubles and some singles, and every once in a while you'll have something weird like that happen. If you are in single family, that's not going to happen. You know, you might make 20 to 30%. Even if you double your money in a house, well, now you can buy a few more houses. I went and bought 2 more complexes. My second purchase was 120 unit from that 48. My third purchase, all funded from that same initial investment because I'm a syndicator. I syndicate other people's money to the deal. I went from 48 to 120, then I bought a 256 unit apartment complex third time out. All on that one investment. Can't do that in a house.
That's pretty remarkable. I've got a whole bunch of other questions about that, but Arthur is jumping in the live chat. He's asking, have you ever heard of the NACA program, NACA program?
No, don't know what that is.
I haven't either. Arthur, if you could explain it in the live chat, I'd be happy to obviously read that off and we can discuss it. So, Bruce, how did you find that deal?
Broker. That's really what it was. My coach, you know, I paid to work with a coach. Well, this coach had connections. So she put me in touch with all the local brokers, and it was just an email that came across from one of these brokers that said, "Hey, got this deal on the market. You know, call for offers is at this point. Price to be determined by market." Of course, again, it wasn't priced, but I just reached out to him and I said, "Hey, I'd like to tour the property." I talk with my coach and say, "Hey, I'm going to go tour the property." My coach says, "This is what you need to ask. This is what you need to look for." So, again, I paid that coach a ton of money, but it was worth it for me, right? So that's how it was. It was a marketed deal. I've had a few deals given to me by brokers as an off market or a pocket listing. I've never bought one though, for the same reason I said that I would charge a premium to not list it. Well, they wanted a ridiculous amount of money to bring it to me off market. Well, that's great because I have first crack at it. You can look at it as right of first refusal, although they usually have 3 to 5 of their top buyers that they're going to send it to and see if anybody wants it before they market it. It just never worked out that way for me. So I found every one of my deals as a publicly marketed deal by a major brokerage locally.
That's crazy. It's funny how different multifamily is from commercial because almost, I guess, yeah, every single property that we've acquired this year, it's $28 million of the real estate was all off market.
Yep.
Which is just, it's crazy how different that is. So your investors, where did your investors come from?
I've got a hole in the backyard. I lift up the lid and they're just sitting there waiting. No, I'm kidding.
Wouldn't that be nice?
I grow them in my backyard. I got special
Yeah.
fairy dust. But no, I just started going to meetups and real estate conferences myself back then and meeting everybody I could meet. Networking is very painful and it's not easy for me, but I knew what my goal and objective was. It was to buy an apartment complex. And I had to get over being scared to death to talk to people. I was a dude that would go to a club at 25 years old with my buddies and I'd sit in a corner by myself because I don't know how to talk to people. I don't know how to network and mingle with people. It's tough in this industry if that's your personality type, but I'm living proof that my personality type, I'm great here, I'm great on stage, but if I have to go work a cold room, God dang, I struggle doing that. But I kept forcing myself to go to all those things. And then I got smart. I thought, okay, I'm going to all these meetups and I'm going to all these real estate conferences and I'm meeting some prospective investors. It's going pretty well. But then I thought, I'm going to start my own meetup. And it's really before I even kind of knew what Meetup was, because this was 10 years ago. It was around, but I didn't go through the meetup.com website or anything like that. I just started meeting people at these other events that I would go to, say, hey, let's meet for coffee at Starbucks every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. when everybody gets off work. Great. So slowly, it was just me and one other guy that started, me and VJ. About 3 years later, that mailing list had grown to 200 or 300 people. All of my investors but two for my first deal came from that meetup. So for somebody like me, I'm very uncomfortable. Again, I'm a big personality on stage, but put me in a room and I clam up. So what I did by starting the meetup, I am automatically seen as a voice of knowledge, a thought leader, so to speak, in their minds. I'm the guy that organized it, so it gave me instant credibility with people that don't know anything about real estate. They're trying to learn it themselves. So now they wanted to come talk to me because I was the organizer. That solved the problem for me. I don't have to go break the ice with somebody now. I don't have to have small talk with somebody now. People are coming to me. So it worked for me very, very well. I would tell everybody that, how do I say this without being a jackass about it, but start a podcast and start a meetup if it's your personality. If you don't have the kind of personality that can hold a room, that can bring value to that room, you probably need to find a different way. Because if you start a meetup because Bruce told me I'm supposed to start a meetup to find investors, but you have nothing to bring them value, you don't know how to talk to anybody, you don't know how to communicate, you don't know what you're doing. See, I had already started educating myself, so I knew enough to start talking to people. Start a podcast the same way. Start a podcast because Gary Vaynerchuk told you to, but Gary Vaynerchuk will also tell you if you don't have anything to say, or if you have no personality at all, it's probably not going to work out so well. But starting a meetup, if you've got the personality to carry that off, that could be a game changer for raising money. And then try to get yourself on every podcast you can get yourself on and have quality things to contribute and talk about. And that's how you slowly start building critical mass. People start hearing about you, finding you. People will start referring you to their friends. So it's that flywheel effect, right? It starts to flip upon itself, but you're going to start slow, go to a few meetups, go to a few more, then go to maybe Jake and Gino or Joe Fairless or Bigger Pockets. Go to those conferences and just plug into the industry. And it works. It just takes some time.
Yeah, and look, the thing is about that too, any personality can do well with something like that. Go find your blue ocean, right? I mean, of course, I'm like Bruce. I have no problem going into a room, where and giving a talk or whatever. Clearly, we do the YouTube channel. I've got the podcast. Like, got the personality for it, and I enjoy it. We also write a blog post every week. I have a massive audience on that. I think we get like 32,000 people visiting our website a month because we're writing articles on commercial real estate. Well, that's a great way to build an audience. Maybe you're more of a data nerd, right? Like maybe you just love diving into the data. Well, why don't you compile a weekly newsletter or a monthly newsletter that's showing all the price per square foot changes, and you could do all sorts of charts and whatever that people will find value in. So there's all sorts of ways for you to kind of position yourself as an authority in that field, other than just getting up in front of a stage, getting up on stage and talking to a bunch of people. Bruce, I actually haven't told you this. So obviously I'm a board member for the Real Estate Investors of Nashville. I've been teaching classes, doing that for a while. But I never really had my own meetup. And a week or two ago, I got asked to go to a commercial real estate investors meetup. It was a very casual group of guys down in Brentwood. It's like 5 or 6, 7 guys. They get together for breakfast, once every couple, 2 or 3, 4 weeks, and at 7 a.m. and they grab coffee. And they had me come in and talk about obviously what we do as a deal sponsor and syndicator. I told them about Salt Ranch, the hotel that we just acquired, and kind of, showed them what we do. So, of course, going out there and building relationships with potential investors. And it got me thinking afterwards, like, that was really cool. There really is no meetup in Nashville that is commercial real estate specific. So I posted it on Instagram. I said, hey, if I was going to start a commercial real estate coffee, twice a month, would anybody be interested in that? And I had 50 something people say yes, they wanted to do it. So I just started sending out calendar invites, booked a room at Retrograde Coffee, which is my favorite coffee shop in town. So now every other Thursday, I'm hosting a commercial real estate meetup at the coffee shop that I'm going to be at anyway. So it's not like it's any effort outside of what I'm already doing. And there's nothing prepared. It's literally hey, this is just a casual conversation for people who are interested in commercial real estate. Show up and let's talk. And it's super easy to do. I had 5 or 6 people show up to the first one, which was perfect, right? Like you get this nice little room of people that are just genuinely interested in commercial real estate. So there's one option for you there. I mean, just go find a group of people like Bruce started with VJ. Just start hanging out, doing something that you normally do anyway, and start a meetup. I think that's such a great way of providing value without having to really do a whole lot, honestly.
Right. And I want people to hear what you said too. 5 to 6 people showed up, and some people would be discouraged. You go, oh, what the? I started with me and VJ. That was it. 2 people. I have an prospective investor database now of 25,000 people. People that have expressed interest in either buying education, buying a book, or investing with me. It's taken me 10 years. But guys, I'm telling you, listen to Tyler, listen to me, baby steps. Just take this stupid thing, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Mm-hmm. It's a flywheel effect. I said that already. You're going to start off with a very small attendance. If you will keep consistently at it week after week, or every other week after every other week in your case, it will grow. I promise. You will get to where we are, and it gets It's never easy to raise money. I do not want to mislead anybody.
Never
Syndicating,
ever.
the name of my book is called Syndicating is a Bitch, because it is. It's hard. It gets relatively easier the longer you do it. It's the 10,000 hours, Malcolm Gladwell. You get to where you're very proficient at it. You're never going to be perfect at it. Cash raises will never be easy unless you have just one dude with $43 trillion and he said, I'll fund every deal you ever do. There might be 1 out of 4 million people listening to this that's going to happen for, right? So you just got to put in the time and the effort. It's not going to happen for you overnight. But it's totally doable. Again, I'm a college dropout. Parents were high school dropouts. I was in retail and I had no experience. And you and I are doing pretty damn well for ourselves. And, we didn't go through some real estate program and get a master's, from Vanderbilt or for Texas A&M. We just got out there and started busting our ass and meeting people and taking steps, taking another step every day. What can I do today that's going to move me further down the journey of getting to where I want to be? And single family houses, guys, it's very unlikely that's ever going to do it for you.
Yeah, and I intentionally made this meetup semi-difficult for people to attend because I really only wanted the hardcore people who are very interested and want to contribute to the conversation involved. So it's 7 a.m. in East Nashville. So I mean, you're gonna do this on my dime if you want to come hang out and talk about commercial real estate. But I know that the 5 or 6 people that showed up, they all really wanted to be there, and that was what was really cool to me. So, if you're listening and you want to come join us, I guess leave me a comment. I'll get you the information. Arthur is saying it's a program in Philadelphia that helps low-income areas with bad credit to be able to get a duplex or a triplex. Yeah, there's a bunch of programs like that across the country. Nashville has one. I actually talked about it last night on our Commercial Real Estate Investor Weekly Update, the news show that we do every week. The housing fund here in Nashville just got a pretty big funding announcement, or just had a big funding announcement from Pinnacle Bank. We're partnering with them. I believe it was $10 million in financing, which is wonderful. They only require people to put, I believe, 1% down. If you qualify, it's 1% down, and then Housing Fund covers the other 24 or 25%. And then Pinnacle Bank, which is a local bank to Nashville, finances the rest of it. So it's a pretty phenomenal program. I love stuff like that. Bruce, Arthur is asking as well, how can someone who doesn't have a great credit score, just started a contracting business, doing small gigs, been in business since 17, how can somebody like that get into the real estate investing game?
Well, if you're trying to do it the way I said, as a syndication, you don't have to go start your own syndication right off the bat. It's very advanced. It's usually for people that have been investing before. It's really hard to do it cold like I did. It's not to pat myself on the back, but remember, I paid somebody thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to teach me how to do it. Right. So, but for most people that are starting out in syndications with no money, maybe not the greatest credit in the world, find some other operator, some other syndicator or deal sponsor that you can contribute to what they're doing. Maybe you perform some back office menial stuff that they just don't want to take the time to do. Maybe you are the communication or the mouthpiece to the investors. Maybe there's something that experienced deal sponsor would allow you to come and be a part of their deal for a small piece of the deal, but just to get your experience. That's probably the best way. These people on late night TV, they're not as prominent as they used to be, but it was, no money, no credit, no job. I can show you how to make $14 billion yesterday. That's probably not going to work for you. You can do this stuff with no money. All right. It's possible. I know people on this podcast that have actually done it. Right. So but most people, it's exceptionally hard to do. And usually when you hear people say, I did this with no money, it's because I put money up, but then I got it all back out.
Right.
It's very hard for you to do a deal with no money. See if you can figure out a way to get it. Go to all the meetups we're talking about. Go to every meetup you can find and start networking with people. Find somebody that's a deal sponsor that has some track record, and to see what can I do to contribute. Just give me 1 or 2% of the deal, whatever is fair to you, sir or madam. I just want to be part of it. So now you start to learn behind the scenes. You start seeing how it all works. You start building your own credibility now too with investors because they know you were part of somebody else's GP. That's the way I would do it.
Yeah, quick plug. I did a video on that. I think it's like 5 ways to buy commercial real estate with no money down, no or little money down. There are ways to do it. It is exceptionally tough, and honestly, like, find a different way to do it. But I mean, if you just don't have money and there's no other way for you to make money, there are ways. So go watch that video. One thing I will say too, Arthur, is that your personal credit, it matters in commercial real estate, but it doesn't matter nearly as much as it does when you're buying single family homes, because they're basing the loan, yes, off of you as the guarantor, but also, will this asset perform, right? Like, is this asset of value? If I have to come foreclose on this asset, will it be a decent return for the bank so that we can flip it to somebody else, make our money back plus a return? That's really what they're looking into instead of your personal credit score. So, look, I don't have a great credit score, right? Because I paid cash for just about everything my entire life, which royally screwed me. I'm still trying to build my credit, which is crazy. I own over $30 million worth of real estate, and I can't, like, I probably couldn't even qualify to buy a single family home right now. I'm not even kidding, which is ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense, but that's just how it is. Arthur's saying, okay, so find properties and contribute that way can help. Yes, absolutely. I mean, that was how I got one of my first couple of deals done. Like, I went out and found the properties and found somebody that had the experience to partner with. I mean, Bruce and I still do that, right? Because Bruce brings stuff to the table that I don't bring to the table. I bring stuff to the table that Bruce doesn't bring to the table. So it works, right? Like, there's not always just a partnership where you're only going to get a tiny amount just because you're going out and bringing the deals. I mean, kind of the way that Bruce and I split up our GP, I'm happy to share with you guys, is like there's 25%. This is generally kind of what happens. 25% for finding the deal, 25% for back of house, and then kind of 50%, give or take, for the capital raise. So if Bruce brings half the capital and I bring half the capital, well then we're 50-50 partners on that deal. And, things will change here and there. Maybe we'll have another partner that comes in that changes that. But that's kind of, generally, right, Bruce? That's generally how we structure our GPs.
It is. Now, if we bring somebody in that's going to be the head of investor relations and they're going to bring a lot of money to the table, but that's all they're really going to do is be investor relations, have to have a legitimate role in the general partnership outside of just bringing money. That's against the law. That's one of those things that I'll teach you, right? You got to do it the right way. But if they're only bringing money to the table and they're only going to be the mouthpiece and the communication piece back to the investors, a lot of times it's only 20% of the deal. But yeah, that's what we do. You got to find some way, like I said, to contribute, make sure that you're doing it the right way, talk to the right attorneys and get it done. But yeah, Tyler is really good at finding the deals. He's a developer. Talking about bringing in somebody when we don't have all our bases covered. We're doing this unbelievable over-the-top boutique hotel in Nashville. We've never developed a hotel. We've, as a GP, we've done developments, but nothing like this. We found the most qualified, biggest badass boutique hotel designer and operator in literally the entire nation. 5 years in a row, Jordan had the #1 ranked boutique hotel in the world. Oh, I thought it was 5. Anyway, 4 years, whatever it is, 4 or 5 years. But again, we don't know how to develop a boutique hotel. We went out and found Jordan. Well, now we've shored that up. We've got back of house, we've got deal flow, we've got investor relations, and now we brought in the most badass operator and designer we could find. So, yeah, don't be afraid to partner with other people. Some people are control enthusiasts, and they're like, "Oh, I got to own all the deal." Well, you're gonna. What? I hate all these euphemisms.
Don't be that guy.
What is it? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. But it's true.
It's an old African proverb.
Yeah. So gather people. Every one of you can bring a different skill set to this GP. Don't put 10 to 20 people in a GP. It's going to be a nightmare. Try to keep it to 2 to 4 people if you can. If you could do it all yourself with a coach, well, then you can keep all the GP cut for yourself, right? So the fewer people, the fewer cooks in the kitchen, the better. But don't be afraid to partner if you're weak in a specific area.
Yeah. I mean, look, it helps to scale too, right? Like I'd rather have a smaller slice of a much bigger pie than you think about that. You want to hold on to 100% of the deal. You don't want to bring people in. Well, there's a chance that you're going to have zero, right? Because you just can't get the deal done. I will take 50% of a done deal than 100% of nothing every day, every day.
Yep.
Because, it makes it more scalable. Bruce is finding deals. I'm finding deals. We can go do more deals, right? Like 1+1 doesn't always equal 2 with a partnership. It should equal 3. And that's why you do the partnership. So, Bruce, resources for, if somebody is looking to scale up their real estate business, what would you recommend? I mean, obviously you've got this course, you've got the seminar. How can people find you and find those?
Okay, so a couple of things that I'm up to in the near future. First of all, I will be speaking at the Old Capital Conference in Dallas. What is it? I've got it on the screen here. September 22nd and 23rd. That just came up a few days ago. So come out and hang out with us. That's a great, highly attended conference in Dallas every single year. It's a great place to network and find people trying to do what you're trying to do. But also, I've been talking about this workshop, the shameless plug. I can teach you how to do this. Now, I'll teach you everything you need to know to go out and do this all on your own, right? And we're going to do that October 8th and 9th in Austin. If you're interested in participating, coming out and spending a couple of days with us, it'll be a Friday and a Saturday, October 8th and 9th at the Domain in Austin. Go to apartmentguy.com. So it's apt-guy.com. On that front page, there's a button. Let me pull it up. Make sure I don't call it the wrong thing. It's my button, but I might call it the wrong thing. So click on the thing that says partner with us toward the top of the screen. Click there, and you're going to go to a form, fill out the form. And one of the questions is, are you interested in the Apartment Guys Austin Syndication Workshop? If you are, click yes. I'll put you in the list because we're still working on getting, all the back office stuff in place, and we will release it formally very soon. But that will lock you in the $1,500 price instead of the $3,000 price. So come hang out with us for 2 days if you're interested. I'll teach you everything I know.
And guys, I could say, obviously, Bruce knows what he's talking about. Like I said, that's where I got started in syndication, was meeting Bruce in Austin a few years ago and him teaching me. So could not recommend that course more. Bruce is a great teacher. He will show you the ropes. Bruce, thanks for coming on today and showing us how to scale business. We appreciate it.
All right, brother. Yep, it was fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us live. If you're listening on the podcast, don't forget to leave us a rating and review. If you are on YouTube, like and subscribe. Come back. Come see us again, and we'll see you next week.